Hi, and welcome back to Is It Bedtime Yet? With Dr. Jenn and Dr. Sarine. Today's episode is about LGBTQ parenting, and we have a special guest with us today. His name is Dr. Mike von Habsburg.
Yeah. Woo!
He is a licensed MFT and a parent.
Right.
And so today we're just going to be talking about the experience of parenting.
Sure.
So hi.
I am thrilled to be here with two fabulous ladies,
Welcome.
Clinicians and friends.
Glad you could be here.
So I was wondering, what are some challenges of parenting that may have surprised you or that you weren't prepared for?
Well, I'm going to frame this whole segment as we waited 20 years to have a child, and we had a child through a surrogate, so everything is through like rose-colored glasses.
Definitely.
And the baby, his name is Rex, he's very easy. He's a pleasant, happy, healthy, just like, I call him a $gabillion baby. So like...
And he's adorable.
And he's adorable. He has curly hair, and he's one, but he's as big as a 2-year-old, so I don't know. But so like, the parenting has been awesome. You know, the challenges for us are more like in the community rather than at home, because Rex has never been sick.
Wow.
Yeah, can you imagine? In a year.
Amazing.
And he kind of just will eat anything. He's teething. He has almost 6 teeth. He doesn't really cry a lot. He's pretty easy. But Tony's my husband. We've been together 20 years. He's with Rex all day, every day. He's only been not with him for 2 hours ever.
Wow.
So it's always that like constant care. But like in the community, for instance, like some of the barriers we went to this park near our home.
Mm-hmm.
And we had like 2 women come up and they're like, oh, like, haha, which one's the mommy? And it's stuff like that that's like, on one level, I have a good sense of humor.
Right.
But on another level, like, I don't feel the need that I have to explain who I am or my relationship or my world to a stranger.
Right.
And I'm always like, well, if I would say something derogatory to a woman in a park, I might be arrested.
Right. So,
or it might be in the news, someone taping me, or I don't know. So, it's more not things like where I would consider our home environment. I think it's like outside. And a lot of times other people say like, well, which one of you is, primary, or which one gave the sperm, or which, like, and people become very intrusive at times, and they kind of have an entitlement.
I was just going to say, I'm surprised by the sense of entitlement that people have, that they feel like they're owed these answers, like it's something that they need to know.
Right. And we go to a church, which I love,
mm-hmm.
but when we have the birth certificate through the state of California has Tony, who's my husband, and I's name on the birth certificate. Mm-hmm. But when we got Rex christened, the baptism,
mm-hmm.
They were like, he seemed very baffled, and there were like 20 questions about the birth certificate. Was it authentic? And it's just a lot of explaining, I guess. So it's these, if this is what you're asking, these are the kind of barriers that we go through. And it's not earth-shattering horror. It's just like, I have to explain to someone I don't know my life. And then sometimes you get an answer of like, oh. And then that's it. So there's a kind of conversation just halts.
And you don't know where they're going with that, if they actually
Right.
got it or...
Or who's his birth mother, and we got an egg donor,
Mm-hmm.
and then we got a surrogate, which is 2 different women.
Okay.
So explaining that story it's time consuming, but it's also not their business.
Right.
But then they're like, was he going to meet the mother? And they become very focused sometimes on the mother.
Yeah.
And this isn't like commonplace, it's just at times.
Yeah.
Right.
But it's just these kind of things. But yet we have other friends who are gay parents, and so a lot of times it's a bunch of like gay dads or gay moms. So then we really don't have that problem.
Mm-hmm.
It just depends. I don't know. Like, it's these kind of things that come up that's like, Tony and I are kind of on the same page, so we just kind of look at each other like, okay, like, are we going to answer them or not? And sometimes lately we've just been like kind of nod, smiling. It's like a smile but a nod and a no at the same time. So there's like, and it's not reading on the audio,
the
but it's
right?
like, I'm not really going to answer you. And or else I kind of look away, or I take my son and I kind of fix his hair, or I divert.
Yeah.
Right. So now that you talked about how people ask you about the process, let me ask you, what was the process of becoming a parent like for you?
Well, yeah, because you had mentioned that
Right.
it's like 20 years in the making, so...
Well, yeah, we waited. Well, we had to wait for monetary reasons too, but we got a house because we used to live in West Hollywood, and I don't think that's conducive for children, in my opinion.
I've never seen a child in West Hollywood.
And neither have I.
It's crazy.
That mean, actually lives there.
Yeah.
Right.
But we waited. We got a house in this like kind of what I figure nice area,
Mm-hmm.
and then I got a job close to the house. So then we're like, now we're gonna have a baby.
Yeah.
But the whole process, I'm writing a book about it actually, and I'm calling it RX for Rex, like prescription for Rex.
I love that.
And it's all about the whole surrogacy journey.
Mm.
And the journey, you have to be a strong person. I don't care if it's a male or a heterosexual couple that are infertile, or whether it's two gay dads or whatever. It could be anything. It's when you give up control of the process because you don't have control. It's very anxiety provoking.
Mm-hmm.
So like for once, by the way, our surrogate, God bless her, she's a fabulous 25-year-old woman who had 2 genetic children of her own before this process.
Wow.
And one day they have to take a certain amount of shots and
Mm-hmm.
hormones and different things, and she didn't have her needles. And she lived in a little north of San Francisco, so our surrogate was not in LA.
Mm-hmm.
And just knowing she didn't have her needles, and the process of having to get certain needles to her in a certain time frame, like in 2 hours while you're at work, is like, I was sweating, and I'm like, well, what if she doesn't get her shots, and then will the baby be, the embryo at the time, will it not take? And it's stuff like this where like, if it's a heterosexual couple, they don't have those kind of barriers.
Right.
Or like, for instance, we would Skype her every Friday, but talk to her on the phones, texting during the week, but then we're like, well, what is she doing? Like, are you eating healthy? Are you sleeping?
Did you visit her at all during the pregnancy stage and feel the baby move or hear the heartbeat?
We did. Her mother, love her too, and her stepfather, actually invited us into their home right before the baby was born.
Oh, that's wonderful.
So she came down to LA twice, and then we went up to Santa Rosa. It's a little north of San Francisco, and we visited her and stayed with her the whole week before the baby was born. So we were like kind of integrated into their family,
Nice.
so to speak.
Yeah.
So it was, and then we met her kids, and who were at the time 1 and 3. Now they're 2 and 4.
Wow.
So it was it's exciting, but it's also there's a lot of lawyers, there's a lot of social workers, there's an agency for the embryos, there's an agency for the surrogate, and then there's an agency for the lawyers. So there's a lot of people in the mix. So if you're not used to having people control, or like, oh, here's a new document, Jenn or Sarine, sign this right now, or we're not going to the next step. And it's very kind of neutral and flat, but when you feel, like, you can feel, I don't want to say threatened, that's a bad word, but like you feel
very
like,
businessy.
Very business. So like, okay, she's 6 months pregnant, you got to sign this document right now today.
Right.
And it might be 30 pages, so I'm like, well, like, hold up. I want to, like, what does that mean? What am I signing?
Right.
So it's those kind of barriers that are, but that's anybody who's with a surrogate, not just gay and lesbian,
right,
or transgender.
So I bet with the paper signing and the more clinical stuff with social workers and attorneys, that moment you would have to go to a doctor's appointment with her or to actually feel the baby move in her belly must have been amplified.
It was, and we got to feel the baby kick twice, which is like, and and then actually I got, and I know this is audio, but I got a tattoo of when we got the first time the baby, they call it viable, when the baby is considered alive, and we got the heartbeat proof, so I had them printed out, and then we put our names, Michael, Tony, and Rex, where there was just like, like there's no bumps.
Right.
So we tattooed me, Tony and I got the same tattoo on our left arm to signify like that moment where like the baby's alive, healthy, and it was a joy, like I think the most joyous moment of my life.
That's
except for
so
when
incredible.
he was born.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I love that.
It was good. So.
Gives me goosebumps. I love that so much.
Yeah, but I could go on and on with even barriers of like going to the hospital when the baby was born, when Rex was born, and getting him out of the hospital. The social worker would not release us because when there's a surrogate and 2 gay parents or 2 parents who did not carry the child.
Yeah.
There's just a different process than heterosexual.
I'm sure.
So if all the I's aren't dotted and the T's aren't crossed, they won't discharge you from the hospital, and they'll make you wait. So that we had to stay at the hospital for almost 4 days until all this paperwork mess got cleared up. And also Rex had a little bit of like just a minor infection, but I think if it would have been like a straight woman with her husband, they would have been like, just go.
Right.
So we had to stay, it's hard to stay in a hospital
Yeah.
in a town 8 hours north, and then we had to drive the baby home, which is like when you're driving an infant in a car for 8 hours, it's like nerve-wracking. You're like, why is everybody driving so fast?
Gosh, I remember the drive home, in my 20-minute drive home was like nerve-wracking. I can't imagine that.
Yeah, so it was, and Tony drove the whole way, and I stayed in the back with the baby, but we would stop every 2 hours just for us, really. And he was quiet, he slept, he was like, once again, this baby, he was like a perfect, we were like, is he alive? He's not crying. He would cry like just a little bit, squeaky, and then back to, normalcy.
Yeah, it's a champ though.
Yeah,
that drive home, that first drive home is nerve-wracking.
So it sounds like most of the challenges that you've experienced have either been in the community with people being ridiculous, or in the system with just the process of getting Rex.
Correct, because Tony and I learned that we've been together for 20 years, but we're on the same page parenting. And when you're on the same page, it just flows. Like you do A and I do B, and you do C and I do D, and we do E together. So we don't have fights like that. Tony and I I don't think you've met my husband.
No, I haven't.
But Jen knows him, and we're kind of low key. Yeah. But we're not perfect parents. We have anger and we have other things, but we keep it low. And since we're calm, I think the baby's calm as a result. So I don't have a lot of since we waited so long, everything he does, we kind of celebrate it. Like if he vomits, we're like, oh, look at that. We're not like these super happy people, but we're like, we don't yell at him. We're like, okay, he's teething, so let's get him a toothbrush. Let's, you know what I mean? We try to make it all like he gets out of this little gated area and we just round him up and get him back. So we don't have we don't need a night away from our baby, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So again, so you said that correct.
Yeah.
So what are some tips and tricks for co-parenting?
Well, I work 4 days a week, 10 hours a day. So I'm Tony's primary. So he's with the baby all the time. So when I get home, I try to give him an hour of Tony time, so to speak. But since Rex is pretty easy, it's once again, this sounds so Pollyanna. But he might want to take the trash to the curb or whatever, or do something in the yard. But then we kind of just eat dinner together, and I don't know, it's just he's not an issue. Sometimes he's up at night, but he sleeps pretty good for the most part. He eats pretty good. He walked when he was 1 year old. He walked exactly at 1. So, I don't know. I don't know if this is answering your questions, but he's not difficult. So co-parenting is not hard for him.
Makes it easy for you guys. It sounds like
But I work with kids for years, and I know the trials and tribulations. We just don't have them. I believe God has blessed us with His child. So I don't know. It's not difficult.
Yeah. But it sounds like even if there were difficulties, that you and Tony are very much on the same page about things, and that helps a lot.
Right. And the one thing actually that he's doing now is he's not around a lot of other kids. So for instance, when you're a child, I don't know if I can say the names, Morgan came, Rex he hits the other kids because he's in that stage. So he's not in these social classes.
Right.
So he had his little buddy over the other day too, Morgan one day and Oliver 4 or 5 days later, and he's hitting the other kids. And we don't have the skills to he can't talk because he's not at that stage. Right. And he's just learning. So since he's not around kids, we have to socialize him. And that's a barrier for us. Because Tony's kind of chill, I'm not sure I want to go out to a mommy and me class.
Right.
I'm happy here by myself. Or our friends and neighbors. So we're trying to get him into these classes and stuff to socialize him because he doesn't have any social skills and he's hitting other kids. That's the one thing I could say about Rex that he's doing that's, needs maybe a little bit of,
Jen's a strong proponent for mommy and me classes.
Definitely. And last time I was talking with Mike and Tony, I was telling them about some of the classes that I do with my daughter. And so I had suggested one of the classes that's local nearby here. And actually I saw Tony that he came and popped in and checked out the class. I think that was my big recommendation, was that I think just having that exposure to other kids, having that outlet for, Rex to,
And as from your recommendation, we went, and We're going to go to another one too. We're going to see which one that Tony likes.
Oh, really?
Well, we're actually, we put him at there's a Topanga Mall down here, and there's this little, like children's area. It's this little, like it's a snake and a beaver and stuff. Yeah. And there's a merry-go-round. Right. But we put Rex down and we're like, oh, like, we're right here. But as soon as we put him down, he didn't even look back. Boom. Out with the other kids. Oh. Hitting some of them, but he's not afraid of anybody. He integrates. Yeah. It's just that he's like all kind of like Frankenstein with his arms.
Right.
Right.
And the kids don't like that, so they push him, but then he falls and right back up.
Yeah. Right. But I mean, for the first several years of their lives, they don't have an understanding of what's outside of their body. So
we do get looks sometimes at the mall too. Getting back to the barriers, but a lot of women with like 2 or 3 kids will see 2 dads, and they kind of, I don't know, it's not like a scorn, but it's kind of like, what's going on over there? And they, with me, my appearance, I've like bleached hair and stuff, and I think sometimes I like scream, I'm gay. I'm not sure if people know or not, but they see us together, and I came out when I was 17, so I'm years beyond caring. Yeah. But I feel that, like, being judged. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I get that at the mall sometimes, but we're just like, whatever. Like, if that's how it's going to be done, then that's how it's done. And I don't want to say anything and cause conflict.
Right. Seems like you guys have such a positive attitude about things and a positive reframe about a lot of things.
Oh, thank you.
Especially about your child. It seems like kind of what Jen was touching on. Even if he was a difficult kid, I think you would probably almost see that as a joy as well, which I think a lot of people take for granted.
My philosophy of Rex, thank you, is that I call him like a $1 billion baby, because I believe he is like a superstar that like someone's just waiting to find. Yeah. Like I think I don't know, and it's not like
we should all look at our kids like that, right?
Yeah. But I think like when we go out, and this is like maybe it's my prism of life, but we have been around other babies before, so like, and I like my sisters had kids, like, and I've been with them for long periods of time. But we go to like Target, there would be 10 people that will come to us and be like, "Oh, isn't he cute? What's his name?" And at first, we were very much like, "Oh no, we're not gonna. I don't know you,
right?
Why? We're not gonna do that,
right?"
But then after a while, we're like, his name's Rex, and he's like, 1 year, but they're like, they want to like smile at him, and he brings joy at church. The priest takes his after the mass, he blesses. He'll go down and put a cross on Rex's forehead. But these are things I've never seen. So the priest is going out of his way to come from the altar all the way to where we sit to bless him on the way out, and I'm like so shocked by it. All the like in Facebook, I'm not a real big social media person, but since Rex has been born, it's all him. Like I'm not even on my own site.
Yeah.
Because people, in my opinion, no one wants to. I mean, they know what I look like. They know what I do. It's the same routine. But with him, like, here's Rex sitting with, a triangle teether. Right. Here's Rex walking the ball. Here's Rex, in the water.
Right.
So, like, here's Rex with Morgan sitting, and isn't it cute?
Yeah. That's what my social media has become the exact same thing. I'm not even on it anymore.
Yeah, so it's like, and I find the joy in it. And I find us, like, integrated into the community. That's another thing about the LGBT. Before, I didn't feel connected to parents. I felt very, not removed, but just like, okay, you 2 kids, you one, whatever. Yeah. Good for you. But now I'm like, now we're going to like do something together. And it makes me like, I feel like our neighbors, we were kind of not distant from them, but not close. But since we had the party for Rex and like
his first birthday
party, we invited 50 people and 45 came, which we were shocked.
Wow.
But all the neighbors came and they were all like, and then now when they get him like a little yellow onesie, then whenever I take the picture and like, look, you bought that for him, and that connects us. So that when I take him for a walk around the block, I'm like, look, like Sarine bought that or Jenn bought that.
Yeah, builds a sense of community.
It builds a sense of community for us, so we're really like tickled. And even if we don't like the product, and that's rare because we usually like them all, but like just put it on him anyways. Take the picture, or let him wear it. And he's pretty, like I said, I keep on saying he's very easy. So like, even when we dress him, as long as he's got his bottle, he's cool. He's one of those babies like food. Yeah. He's not fussy. He's on milk now. Like, Just turned to just from the formula to milk, which was, to me, I was like,
big milestone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Saving money.
Seriously.
Yeah.
It's so expensive.
Well, so let me ask you, I'm going to shift gears a little bit.
Sure.
What does self-care look like for you guys? Because I know you said that, you don't really need that much, granted, everybody needs some self-care. But given that he's such an easy kid, what do you guys do for yourselves for self-care? Especially because it struck me that you said that, Tony's only been away from him for about 2 hours. So have you guys ever had like a date night post-Rex?
No, we don't want to. It's I don't know. I'm a lot of people at work, especially the women I work with, they're in the childbearing years, so they're having a lot of babies and like, I need time off. But see, we didn't have the baby, so it's not my body.
Right.
So there's no healing. The self-care for us is sleep. So that but self-care, if I don't sleep, we don't get nasty. I just become very sloppy and careless.
Yeah.
And it's not good.
An important thing to talk about, since this topic was LGBTQ parenting, is that obviously your experience is not going to be encapsulating every single person's experience, but it's been amazing that you're sharing all of this with us and your guys' personal journey into parenting. I guess my final question for you is, what advice would you give other parents who are experiencing maybe some of the same challenges that you guys have, maybe some judgments from people, or the challenges of dealing with the system and having to deal with the surrogacy stuff? What advice would you give to anybody who's going through any of that?
Learn to give up control is my number one rule, and learn how to cope. So if you, in any relationship, but I'll say especially gay and lesbian because we're focused on that, you learn to be on the same page with the small things, because when the S hits the fan, like for instance, Rex has this one thing, he needs a surgical procedure. Okay. And we weren't ready for this, but I don't want to, it's just something small, but anyways, but we had differing opinions. So, but you learn to okay, it's something fixable, but if you're not on the same page with stuff like surgery, then things can get out of control quick.
Definitely.
Tempers, or I want it this way, or
right.
no, or, but we just you got to talk. So I'd say learn to let the control go, and try to be on the same page. I don't know.
Yeah.
How do you cope with judgment from the community? Like you were talking about the lady at the mall giving you kind of the side eye.
My philosophy in life is, and I want this to be said with the utmost respect, I find myself to be a fabulous product. So
I love that so much.
In life, I'm if you don't understand it, well, then you don't. But I'm having a good time. I'm having a good life. I mind my own business. I stay in my own lane. So I'll just divert or whatever. And I'm just she doesn't understand this fabulosity. So she doesn't. So I just let it go.
I feel like my mind was blown today. I feel like I used 90% of what Mike said today for parenting and for myself.
And I was going to say, so much of that I think applies to parenting in general, and the advice that you gave, and just a lot of the experiences that you've had, not all of it. Nice. That so much of it is just a universal experience, it sounds like. And the advice that you gave is just universally good advice to anybody.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, Rex is, like I said, $1 billion baby is my word for him. The sunshine and the joy of our lives.
Yeah.
I think we should all just call ourselves fabulous products.
I think that's the
look at our
takeaway.
children as $1 billion children.
If there's anything you take away. Yeah.
Yes.
Thank
you.
Well, good.
Yeah.
I was really not expecting to walk away so happy.
Yeah. Right.
I feel like I just had a therapy session. Thank you, Mike.
Yeah.
Thank you both.
Thank you so much for being here. And thank you to our listeners for tuning in. If you have any questions or comments or any topic ideas that you want to throw out for us, you can email us at isitbedtimeyetpodcast@gmail.com. And until next time, this is Dr. Jenn and Dr. Sarine asking, is it bedtime yet?